You look gorgeous.
Thank you. So do
Stunning.
you. What do you think we're going to talk about today, Anita?
String cheese.
Yes. And other
Cheese.
food.
Oh, other food. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm
Is
kind
that
of
what we're talking
jealous
about?
of your cheese right now. Making me feel hungry. Let's
Well,
talk about food.
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 Oh, food.
Isn't it interesting how our relationship with food changes after we experience loss?
I think it's very complex and annoying.
I would never have guessed that it would be such an issue or even a factor before I went through my own grief experience or am going through my own grief experience.
What's your experience been so far?
So I know that a lot of people have different experiences. And for me, of course, right after your person dies, there's that period where food is just really weird. Like you have no appetite, you don't want to eat. It makes you feel sick to even think about eating anything. People have to force you to eat. And after that period, I find that I don't have issues with appetite like I know some people do, but food to me is very tied to memories, and it's an emotional thing. So that's more where I am. Just food bringing back memories and wanting to avoid certain foods or wanting to have certain foods because they remind me of Jason. I remember right after Jason died, 2 food related things that I want to tell you. One was that on Saturday mornings, Jason would go swimming at 6 in the morning, and they did a long swim on Saturdays. And he would come home and he would always make himself 4 Eggo waffles. Okay.
Four.
4 Eggo waffles. And then he would eat the Eggo waffles and the kids would come and he would like let him have bites of his, Eggo waffles. So there was like a lot of memories with stupid Eggo waffles. Well, right after he died, I don't remember who made the waffle, but somebody made an Eggo waffle. And I was so upset and so distraught. I took the waffle and I opened the front door and I chucked the waffle out the front door. And then I closed the door.
Beware of flying waffles, not
No, and
UFOs.
I was like, people have got to think that I've lost my mind, which, yes, I had. But that waffle had so much emotion and memory and sadness tied to it that I just couldn't even deal with the waffle. So silly.
You want to hear mine?
Yeah.
Mine has gone from one extreme to the other.
Okay, tell.
So, like you explained, yes, when you first found out that Jason died, you couldn't eat anything. Well, then I ate everything sugar. I
Yeah.
want to say that took about 2 weeks. I couldn't eat anything for like about a week and a half to 2 weeks. And then it was like, oh, Lucky Charms. Oh, pie. Oh, cookies.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
blizzards from Dairy Queen. It was wild. So I've never, ever in my life been an emotional eater. And Scott was 100% an emotional eater. And I always would say, Scott, you have got to stop. Like, you're going to die one day. Spoiler alert. I won. I was right. And I didn't really relate because I always could stop. And I know that's maybe not common. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. It changed. So I found myself for the first time in my life eating my feelings. I think when I went through my divorce or bad things in my life up until Scott had died, I just would not eat because I'd be so stressed out. I would eat what I could, but I think my body would metabolize it a certain way and like I would get skinnier. And now this was just too big. And so the only thing that helped my brain to feel better was the sugar. So I ate everything. I ate Lucky Charms 3 times a day. I don't regret one single bite. If it all happened again, I would do it the same because I feel like it really helped my emotions. But then I started feeling, after probably a year and a half or so, 2 years maybe, I started getting like inflammation, pain. And so I had to adjust my diet. Well, what I found out is when you take sugar out of your diet, you also feel very sad in your brain. So I found myself at this crossroads where I either could mentally be a little bit better by eating sugar, or physically a little bit better by not eating sugar. And it was hard. And then I got really, really depressed. So I feel like the sugar and all that kind of helped me to cope. And then when I started having to make that decision, now that was taken away. And so I want to say for a good year, I just walked around and was like, I can't deal with life. I hate it, but my body feels better and this is my choice. Well, now it's evened out, but it really did take a really, really, really long time. And now what I found is because I don't use that sugar or things like that to help my brain feel better, I have a hard time eating or relating to food or caring about food. And new development, I want to say in the last 8 months or so, meat, not all the time, but like sometimes I'll be eating something like with meat in it and it just starts feeling like I need to go throw up. Like the texture has bothered me. And it's interesting because I thought I was the only one in this situation. And several months back in our Widow Wives Club, we talked about this, and I found out that there are a lot of people that struggle with under eating.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually did a little experiment. We called it the Food Buddy Group. And we learned throughout just putting ourselves through the experiment and connecting with each other, of course, that it's tied to emotions and grief. But yeah, it's hard. And then there's a lot of stress in our bodies. And so we found out that our throats were tight and our stomach was tight because of the stress and the grief and the trauma. And so our bodies go through all sorts of things. So now at this point, I'm 3.5 years out. I have to still remind myself to eat because I forget, or I feel sick about food still.
It's so interesting because I still just like to eat licorice for everything. And I often say that my children's lives have been saved by me sitting in the garage eating chocolate. So I am definitely an emotional eater, and I definitely use food to make myself feel better. And I do not have to remind myself to eat. I have to be like, whoa, you're not going to be happy if you eat all of this food. Like, it's going to have negative consequences in the end. So
Yeah. So Anita, but you're a marathon runner and a triathlete. So if you didn't do those things,
it would
I
be
think it'd
bad.
be a lot worse off. But overeating is a big one for a lot of
It's
our widow
interesting
friends.
how it's like very few of us can get it right. It's either over or under, or just a change in our relationship with food. For instance, I used to love to cook, and I would spend a lot of time figuring out menus and looking online for different recipes and really being excited about new foods and trying new recipes and new cultures. And that has gone away almost 100% because my kids, the reason that it was so fun was that Jason was along that on that ride with me, right? I would make something new and it'd be like a fun adventure and it'd be like, oh, this is yummy, or like, oh, that was really bad, or whatever. And now that it's just me and children, and the children don't appreciate that, they're like, where are the chicken nuggets? It's been like, it's completely gone. I have no pleasure in cooking or trying new recipes or anything like that. And even eating out and trying new restaurants, gone. Because who do you go to a new restaurant with? I mean, Mel,
Me,
but
but I'll be like, that has meat in it and I feel gross now.
but your date buddy, your partner is gone. And I know that a lot of people have expressed similar feelings, except for if you don't have kids or if you're an empty nester, it's like, why am I going to make food? It's just
Yeah.
me.
Cooking for one, which I'm not a stranger to because I was single a lot of my life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I remember those times where I was like, okay, this is hard. There's not two people. And then I kind of, moved through that. But then it's like Scott and I actually planned where we wanted to live based on the proximity to a certain store that had all the good cheeses and all the good like gourmet things. Because Scott was also a chef. He was a culinary genius.
He was a foodie.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I feel like you and Scott would have gotten along great.
I know, I'm so mad sometimes because
So
we would have
stupid.
decorated cookies and cakes and we would have eaten all the food and
Yeah, like one time he's like, I'm gonna make you a salad. And I'm like, great. I was expecting just like lettuce and dressing. And it's like 2 hours later. Here's a cedar plank smoked salmon on the such and such with Marcona almonds. And I'm like, whoa, like that. And so I've noticed recently, like I didn't tie the two and two together, but even going to a grocery store is hard for me because that was an adventure for me and Scott. And that and mixed with the adventure of food, it's survival at this point, but then we deal with feelings of, do I want to survive? I mean, I do, we've discussed passive suicidality in our group and sometimes on the podcast. So these are very real things. It's like taking the fun out of it. However, I'm proud of us, Anita. You know why?
No.
We eat tacos together sometimes.
And that is a new thing. I mean, I've always liked tacos, but it's become more of an adventure, like find the tacos, eat the tacos. So yeah, that's a fun new thing. But by and large, I feel like food has become just like a really weird thing. And there's a lot of, my dad is calling me right now. He does not believe in text messaging.
Will he Skype you?
He might. He will. I guarantee he will call me back 3 times in while we're recording because he does not take no for an answer.
Do you need to answer it?
Let's see what happens.
Okay, I'm eating my cheese while you do this. This is my breakfast.
The thing about it though that is really tricky is that food is fuel for our bodies, and so it's not really optional. And eating too little is not great because we're not fueling our bodies, and then eating crap is not great because, like for me, you just said, I run a lot, I swim a lot, I bike a lot, and I'm not fueling my body properly, and I feel that sometimes. But it's like I'm just in survival mode half of the time, not half of the time, 92% of the time.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. I do have to say, when I am mountain biking with you, my body does require more carbs maybe than I normally have. And so it tells me that I need to eat more. And so in those instances, it kind of helps me out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of us live in the extremes.
Yeah. I would
Balance is hard. Ugh.
Do you have any foods that have really strong emotional ties to them that when you eat or when you come upon them, they're a little bit triggering or upsetting or make you feel sad?
I want to say all of the things that I cannot eat anymore because of the inflammation.
Yeah.
Those definitely would probably trigger me because Scott was also a baker, in his culinary madness. So I can see how I would maybe see certain foods and feel like that. I think even more than the foods, it's like going to the store, the one that we would always go to, which you and I have been to before. And so now it's kind of helped me to maybe add new memories to that. But yeah, even like Scott was so into cheese, and cheese does not trigger me, thank goodness, because what would I eat?
I don't know.
But just going to like the cheesemonger and trying out different cheeses or looking at them, like that experience, I would say it was difficult. But now I feel like I'm doing okay. What about you?
Yeah, there's a long list of things that when I think about them or when we eat them, they cause like a feeling of longing. Like Eggo waffles. Like they're silly. Orange Julius. Jason always used to make Orange Julius. And right after he died, my little brother, he was like trying to figure out something for me to eat. And he's like, what about an Orange Julius? And I just started sobbing. And he was like, what did I do? And he
You
didn't.
ruined my life, Brent.
I know, it was really funny. Ribs. Jason loved to eat ribs. And so whenever we have those, I feel a lot of like sadness. And some of it is because I wish that he could enjoy those things also. And he's not getting to enjoy those with me. So yeah,
I
a
would
lot
say
of food memories.
with Scott, he loved chocolate. I swear chocolate is what killed him. I swear. But we included it in his funeral because he was so into treats and food, like everybody knew it, that it would be inappropriate to not have treats at the funeral. So we actually had these little chocolate caramel ball things in bags that we had available for everybody at the funeral. And
You had funeral favors?
yeah, totally. Oh, he was gonna go out with a party.
Yes.
So in a way, it's interesting because chocolate makes me think of Scott, but I don't feel sad about it. I feel like, oh, that's something that I remember that experience, because I also don't have very many memories with him because we were not together as long as you and Jason were. And so because I have limited memories, I don't want to say I cling to them, but they're burned more in my mind. I'm not like, I must go think about the chocolate because Scott's gone, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of the few things Scott and I got to do together. And I learned from him was how to like taste the chocolate, because of course he was like, this one has notes of such and such. Blah, blah, blah,
Floral
blah.
notes.
I'm like, what?
Notes.
So yeah, I think of him when I pass the chocolate section, the artisan chocolate section. And that's kind of just a nice little like, yeah, remember like that was a thing and we did it together.
That's cool. I like that it can be something that you remember fondly as opposed to remember painfully.
What are all of your experiences with food? Comment below.
It's a weird topic, and you just need to know that you're not alone, whether you're experiencing eating too much sugar or not eating anything or forgetting to eat. So we want to hear about how your relationship with food has changed after your person died.
Yes. And one thing that we learned from our food buddy little experiment is how much it helped to have goals with others. Just goals like, oh, look, I made something today. Maybe a goal that you can live up to, not one that's totally out of reach. Like, I will cook a 5-course meal for myself.
No cedar plank salmon, just maybe like the salad bar at your local store. Yeah.
Well, unless you're David Kelly, who was also in our food buddy group, and he does actually make delicious gourmet things. So yeah, David, Constance, Missy, Katie, Marie, Sunshine, we all were in that small group together. And you were in there too, I think, for a second, but yeah.
I never did anything.
But yeah, anybody that was in that group, like we did notice benefits, even though they were small and different for everybody.
It's just like the widow experience. There are commonalities and differences, but I bet that everybody has experienced some change in how they relate to food after loss.
Yes. If you are not in our Widow Wives Club on Facebook, make sure to join, because we continue these discussions in there. And there are a lot of people that have similar issues. So join. The link is in our bio if you're on Instagram, or it's everywhere on all of our accounts.
I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
I love all the sugar.
And I only eat cheese.
We're two young widows, and we're trying to help you figure out, widow, what do you do now?